Emotional availability. So many of us have dealt with people who are emotionally unavailable. Why do we sit there and try to justify them? And why do they or others try to also tell us that, oh, it's fine, you can make it work, when clearly there's fundamental incompatibility because they are unavailable to emotionally be there for us. Emotionally unavailable people are everywhere in society. It's not just about having your time and your schedule available to hang out with someone or call. It's if they're actually present. Being truly present requires a certain level of skill. It means like breathing, nose breathing, conscious breathing, like being present in your body. It means like really focusing your consciousness, really being in the moment, really like listening actively. It's about being rather than just doing. Most people are not human beings, they're human doings. Aside from that, they don't have the time, they don't have the energy, and they don't have the resources. So most likely, they're going to be taking from you if you are emotionally available. They may be disconnected from their body, from feeling into their heart, from breathing into their heart, from really truly feeling their emotions. Many people have repressed their feelings and they've suppressed their emotions, so they don't even know what they feel. Or they only feel what they believe they should feel rather than how they actually feel. Since so many people are being inauthentic due to people pleasing and trying to placate others so they can get approval and love, the conditional love and approval that they never got from their parents growing up, they continue this spiral of being emotionally unavailable and even distant, cold, and avoidant to their partners, potential partners, friends, family, and loved ones. Here are some things to assess for emotional availability. So to start, you need to realize compatibility. If your schedules align, if they have the time and energy for you, if they actually want you in the same way as you want them. So you have to check if they're responsive. Are they responsive to you? Do they respond within a reasonable time? Their willingness, are they willing to make it work? Their interests, again, are they interested in you? Do they want you? And their schedule, their consistency, their ability to show up for you, not just once or twice, but on average, a reasonable amount of time. So compatibility, first of all, it has to do with seeing if your needs match, like you're able to meet each other's needs, if your desires match, if your values match. If you have a values mismatch, desires mismatch, or needs mismatch, you're probably incompatible. If you can't show up for each other how you need, what are you doing there? You're probably wasting or misusing your time. I get it. Somebody might be really cute, they might be attractive, they might be lovable, you might love spending time with them and have a fun, enjoyable experience. That doesn't mean that they're emotionally available for you. It's a big misconception. A lot of people think that just because they feel love, that there's love there, and that's delusional if there's no compatibility or emotional availability. Aside from that, projecting that overlay fantasy onto people not only is unfair to them, but it's unfair to yourself, because if they're emotionally unavailable and incompatible, then you're going to spend a lot of time with someone who can't actually meet your needs and is unable to communicate in the ways that you require so that you can have good brain and mental health, heart health, spiritual health, peace of mind, different things, and you're probably going to need years of therapy. So to avoid that, check the boxes. Make sure they check your boxes. Like have a review, have an assessment after a certain amount of time. Is this working for us? Or these are the needs I have. Can you do this for me? And if they can't, then figure out alternatives. You can still stay acquaintances with them. You just stop expecting them to be compatible as a friend or a romantic partner if that's all they're gonna be. So you can go to shows, you can have fun, you can do certain things with them, but when it comes to going deeper emotionally, it's not that deep for them. So don't expect that level of clarity and depth from somebody who's not willing to dive there within themselves or with others, or they simply want that with someone else and not you. So don't take that personally. Sometimes it's just incompatible, and this is where you check. Are they responding to me often? Are they there when I reach out? Do they actually care? Do they show care? Then a reasonable time frame. And so, are they willing to make it work? Are they willing to listen? Are they willing to understand from their heart? Are they willing to open their mind? And if they're not willing, then they're not going to be responsive. So responsiveness is a good way to kind of check if they're willing. If they're willing to respond to you, to check your text, to answer your text, not ghost you, to show up to plans, to make plans in the first place, and to have tough conversations. Like if you say, hey, we need to talk, or can we please have a conversation? Or is it okay if I open up to you about how I really feel? That will let you know. If they ghost you, they're not emotionally available for that. They don't have the capacity and bandwidth. If they're unwilling, that's them letting you know, I can't, I don't want to, I don't have the capacity to, I don't have the resources to, I'm emotionally not, fulfilled or full within my own battery to be able to listen to your sob story or your stuff. And that's fine as long as you're not the only one that's always willing. You're not the only one that's always responding. You're not the only one that's showing up and making things work and figuring out how to be compatible for their needs. So they have to show interest. If people show you interest, that's a sign that they might be emotionally available, because if they weren't available, then why would they show you interest, right? So you have to kind of discern for your own being, like, is this something that's going to feed me and fuel me, or is this them just trying to get temporary attention? Because your most valuable resource on this planet, in this earth, in this reality, in this life, is your time. So you can always get more money, you can always get more friends, you can always get more partners, stuff, but you can't get back your time. And so that's something they don't really teach you, because of a bunch of reasons the system profits off our time. But that's also why a lot of narcissistic or abusive people keep us kind of distracted and giving them all the attention, because then you're not aware of your time. So you're able to spend a ton of it on people, even though they're not going to really reciprocate, and even though they just are an attention hoe. So schedule. If their schedule is all the time, they're a workaholic, they're working 60, 80 hours a week or more or whatever, they're not going to be available for you. They are an emotionally unavailable person unless they really make the time. If they even work that much, sometimes people work less and they're emotionally unavailable, but if they do work a lot, they can still make time for you and be emotionally available. It's just to what extent. And so for your own sake, you have to acknowledge, will this person and the amount that they have to give me be enough for me? Not if they're enough. They are enough, you're enough, we all can be enough on our own, just with divine sovereignty and universal abundance, just being as we are for ourselves, and we're complete and whole even if we feel fragmented or fractured. That's one thing. Like, worthiness and enoughness is one concept, but I'm saying, is their schedule enough for you? Like, how much they can show up for you? Is the time that they make for you enough for you? Is the time that they're willing to listen to you and hear you out and like have tough conversations? Is that going to meet your needs? Where you can actually dive more vulnerably with them? Like, do they make space for that? Do they hold space for you? Do they listen with kindness? Do they ask you questions? Right? Different things to ask. And really, do they ask your schedule? And do they ask you out on dates? Or do they make texts where they like ask you about how your day went? Do they check in on you? So do they do that consistently? Consistency is key. If they just do that once in a blue moon, okay, well, that's, I guess, when they're emotionally available. So people will show you if they're emotionally available, not just tell you. And there's a lot of things that can go right with showing you that they are emotionally available, but there's also red flags, just like anything in life. One of the biggest red flags is ex drama. If they're bringing up their ex and you're trying to date somebody, they're always just like, oh, my ex did this, my ex did that. That might show that they still haven't grieved. So emotional availability isn't always just about logistics. It can also be about emotions, like if they haven't emotionally processed previous traumas or grief or pain or loss and suffering. if they're still going through something, they're probably not going to be available to actually pour into you because their cup isn't full. It's still full of bullshit that they need to like toss and drop and detox. So if they have ex drama, they're like, my ex did this to me, my ex did that, I did this to my ex, our ex, but it's just, that's a no. I would be like, that's a red flag. They're not over their ex, or they're just still grieving, and they are more focused on other things, like other stories, or they cause conflict or drama or gossip. That's emotional immaturity. So that's super important to consider when dealing with compatibility and dealing with this ex drama stuff people bring up. Is like, are they even emotionally mature enough to be compatible with you? You have to consider that. Like, are they even emotionally that intelligent and on that level of being mature? Have they grown up to be there for you? So if they ignore you, right? People ignore you, that's a huge red flag. That's emotionally immature. They're not communicating with you. They're not being transparent and honest with you about what's actually going on. So why would you put more energy into that? At the end of the day, if somebody wants to, they would. Like, most people have their phone in their hand, so they can just reach out to you or say busy, you know. But when people say I'm not ignoring you, that one kind of bugs me a little bit, because if they do it once and they're not ignoring you and they get back to you, that's one thing. But if someone's just telling you I'm not ignoring you while they continue ignoring you, that's actually gaslighting, that's deflection, and that's avoidance, which is them just escaping responsibility or accountability, or just being intimate and honest with you as a friend or a partner or whoever, family member it can be. But people use this escape and cop out of, oh, I'm not ignoring you. And it's like, well, that's exactly what you're actually doing. And so if they're not emotionally mature enough to have those conversations, and they're just using this note every so often to excuse themselves, then that's not somebody to actually build a relationship with. So if they try to justify it, when you bring it up and call them out, instead of being like, I'm sorry, and then changing and becoming emotionally available or spending more time on you and spending more energy, they try to say, well, I'm working all the time and you're just demanding so much from me emotionally. Or they give other people all this energy, and you're like, yeah, they're like, yeah, well, I've been friends with those people for so long and longer than you. Or, oh, that's just my ex, we're just friends, we just hang out. And you're like, well, why are you talking to them if we're supposed to be the ones dating? So they will double down, and instead of trying to figure out how to make space for you and show up, they're gonna justify it. So it's a red flag, because people, if they wanted to, they would. I believe Mel Robbins says that. And so it's like, let them, right? When you let emotionally unavailable people be, you stop chasing them. You can attract people who are emotionally available, and you stop justifying their dysfunction, believing their lies, their breadcrumbs, their future faking, gaslighting, hope, filling your fantasies, but then not showing up. It's like, they can make time and space for others. They can screw up by, going and spending huge amounts of time and energy and money and resources on themselves and others without considering you, and then just turn around and be like, I'm sorry, sorry. Well, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to show up? Are you going to make time? Are you going to plan dates? Are you going to plan hangouts? Are you going to ask how I'm doing, how I'm feeling? Are you going to check in on me? Do you even care? And if you have to ask that, they probably don't. And that's a hard thing to accept, is if they don't care, they're going to show you they don't care. If they're emotionally unavailable, they're not going to be able to show up for you. They're not going to make time. They're not going to want to listen to your feelings. They're not going to want to listen to how you feel or what's going on or what you felt about stuff. They don't have the time for that. Their one priority and focus is them, who they want to be with, who they're emotionally available for, and probably the rest of the time work or whatever else they're doing. So if they're narcissistic and they're self-absorbed, they're not going to have emotional space for you. They need to have the capacity, the bandwidth, the capability, and the maturity and the willingness to do that. And so if they make excuses like, I was busy, I was late, I was tired, I was sick, I was whatever bullshit excuse, or it was their birthday, I had to be there for them, or I'm sorry, I forgot, I totally forgot, or I put it in my calendar, I set an alarm and it didn't go off, or whatever excuse people have, or I didn't know better, or I realize now and I'll do it better. It's like, and you've heard it a million times, it's like, you know what, save it. Those excuses get old, especially if they're in denial of their own emotional unavailability. So if they're emotionally unavailable and they make excuses for it, right? They just tell you that I'm available, I'm going to show up, and then they don't. Or they say, I promise I'll be available, or I'm sorry, I'm trying my best, or whatever. Or stop putting so much pressure on me. So they could even try to justify it by gaslighting you and deflecting onto you and being like, you're expecting so much from me. It's not that deep. Stop making so many, judgments or ultimatums or expressing so many demands. Like, you're so demanding, you're so pressuring, you're so controlling. So like make it seem like you're crazy because you want emotional availability from them. But they're not being honest about what they can and can't provide. And so a lot of times people will do this because they want to keep you guessing. Keeping you guessing keeps you from leaving. So if you don't stop guessing, you can stay around. But as soon as you stop guessing, you're gone. Because why would you stay around if you already know that they're not good for you, or they're not available, they're not going to listen to you or meet your needs or show up and actually provide what you need, which is like love and care and support. Not just someone to hang out with, not just someone that they can get their rocks off with, not just someone who's going to be there for them when they want it and need it, but someone who's actually going to reciprocate. And I'm not saying that relationships are purely transactional. However, most relationships have transactional dynamics in them, and people meet their needs through that. And so if you do it consciously, it can be healthy. If you do it unconsciously and they're the only one getting their needs met, they're not emotionally available, and they keep you guessing while making excuses and justifying themselves, they've got to go. Or you have got to change how you interact with them if you don't want to end up drained, because that whole dynamic is very one-sided, it's very unhealthy, and it's very ultimately draining. So if they prioritize others over you, that's a huge red flag, and that shows that they might be more compatible with others. You might not be compatible with them, because if you were and you met their needs and they wanted to meet yours, they would just make time for you and they would prioritize you. They would emotionally mature, they would get therapy, they would grow up and learn their lessons, they would read books, they would study, they would understand how to behave in better ways, and they'd show up and do it. It's very simple. They would figure out how to show up in ways that make it more compatible for you. That doesn't mean you're automatically compatible, and in fact, emotional availability is this thing where it doesn't make you automatically compatible. Someone can be emotionally available but be incompatible fundamentally with your values and your needs and desires. But they're available. Doesn't matter, you don't need them. Meanwhile, people that are compatible with your needs and desires and boundaries might not be emotionally available. So they don't necessarily cross unless they do. And that's where you have to kind of pay attention. Because if you don't, and you're like, well, they're not responding to me, but they're probably busy, right? They're not really willing to show up and listen to me or ask how I'm doing, but they're probably just tired, or they're going through a hard time. They're not really showing that much interest into me, but like they still make some time for me, or they are willing to meet up or talk. So maybe they'll want me more if I do more things, right? And so you start to try to get them to be more emotionally available. You start to try to make more plans, and you start to try to be there for them, hoping they'd be there for you. And that becomes a dysfunctional transactional dynamic, where now it's like I scratch your back, you scratch mine, tit for tat. And it's this back and forth that ends up like a push-pull, and you're going to end up trying to get back something by using what you did as leverage, and they're going to feel manipulated. So you'd never want to force emotional availability for someone. If they're not available, they're not available. If they have a partner, they're not interested in you, they're not interested in you. If their partner is exclusive with them and they're not open or poly, they're not interested in you. Stop trying to force people who are actively, exclusively married or dating someone else to get interest in you. That's gross, that's petty, especially if they're not in an open relationship and their partner is not interested in that either. Like, what are you doing with your life? It's kind of embarrassing. Meanwhile, going for people who are not interested in you, who are unavailable, like gay guys going for straight guys, what are you doing there? They're not going to understand you. If you want people to be your friend, that's different. They can understand your emotions that way. But expecting them to be your boyfriend or husband or life partner, not going to happen. Insane. You might be able to hook up with them and experiment or explore and convince them, to experience things with you, but as far as showing up for you romantically, emotionally, energetically, and in a friendship, they're probably not going to do that, and you're probably going to end up hurting yourself. Same goes for women who sign up for people who are not actually emotionally mature, men and husbands who don't want children or lie and pretend that they do, who aren't actually making the time to be there for their partner and to raise children. They just want to play video games, they just want to chill in the man cave, they just want to go out to the bar. That's not somebody who's going to make time for you, and if they do, it might not cut it for you. It's going to be draining, feeling like you have to fight for your needs and wants and desires, and if their schedule, they don't make the time for you, they don't have time for you. Or they just have time for other people. Or they just have time for themselves. Or they simply just don't care. So it's super important to stay blessed and don't let emotionally unavailable people screw with your head, because their inconsistency, right? They're not showing up in consistent behavior. That gets you hooked. That gets you emotionally addicted to these people, where you are like an addict. You're like, the more emotionally unavailable they are, the more you actually want it, because they're like this forbidden fruit. They're like what you can't have, and so you want more of it, and you end up like trying to chase them. You end up trying to convince them. You end up trying to like scaffold yourself and play like a charade and a puppet to their games to try to get them to show up for you and care about you and love you with their heart, or listen with their, mind, heart, and soul, and just be what you want them to be when they can be that. And so you have to understand, like, there's only 24 hours in a day. Everybody has the same amount of time. They're gonna sleep 8 hours of that day, hopefully, right? Get good enough sleep. Then they're gonna work, who knows, 4 to 6 to 8 hours a day. Now they get back, they've got like 8 hours, right? And they have to like clean, take care of their pets, prepare for the next day, and then try to like get ready for sleep and still live a life. So being a human's a whole journey. Being emotionally available for themselves, actually taking the time to process their feelings and journal, getting therapy, talking to AI, talking to friends, meditating, praying, doing yoga, practicing awareness with nature, and expressing themselves, writing, reading, really like sitting with their inner child, having the tough conversations they need with their parents, their family, their friends, clients, and with you if you're their partner, or whoever their partner is. They're doing the work. So they make time and space for it. They schedule time for important things, for emotional health. And they actually dedicate and commit their reality toward their highest emotional evolution. They feel feelings. They don't just repress or shut down. They don't just deflect how you feel. They actually make space for it. So then those people who actually take care of their needs, like they have their housing, their finances, their career, their resources, their money, their nutrition, their family, their pets, their friends, they have their own life. So they need to have their own life. They can't just be emotionally available for you all the time or you for them. You need to have healthy boundaries. You need to be able to be your own autonomous person. You need autonomy. You need independence. You need sovereignty to be able to coexist with people in healthy ways. If you don't, you get enmeshed. You end up bulldozed. You end up feeling smothered. And people feel like they don't have a free will say in what they do or who they're with. It's kind of annoying. It's like people expecting you to meet all your needs, live your life, do everything, and then show up for them on top of that. Are you kidding me? How are they supposed to do that? So the quicker, easier route is to pretty much be like, okay, realistically, how much time does this person have? How much do they really want to spend on me? Do I want to spend it on them? And you just decide like if it's going to work. And then you pay attention to what they're showing you, like take signals, take data, take stimulus as information, and do assessments. And don't actually assume. After you've done your assessment, if you think that they're emotionally available, ask them. Or even throughout their process, ask them, what's your schedule? When can you hang out? When are you willing to have these tough conversations? If they show you they aren't, or they tell you they aren't, they're not. So pay close attention and point out to them where they tell you that they're emotionally available or they're not. So you're like, hey, you said that you're available on Fridays, but you're not willing to have these conversations when we hang out. So you're really just zoned out. Or you say you're available and you don't actually make that time for me. So I feel neglected because we're supposed to have Friday memory nights where we talk about our fun memories together. But you don't do that. Or you forgot our anniversary and you didn't make time to actually like spend quality time together. You just got me some gift and then you told me like the card, which is fine, I guess, but like I need you to show up more consistently. This is important to me. And so it's like it takes a lot of vulnerability and courage to communicate these things to people. And then decide like, okay, if we're willing to make it work, we're willing to make it work, and you put in the dedication and time to make it work and to be there. And that's what marriage is about. For example, it's like you have to be emotionally available for your partner to feel safe coming to you. Emotional safety happens when people are actually available for those conversations. It's about encouragement. It's about invitation. It's about allowing. So many people are like, reach out when you need help. It's like, how about you guys reach in? How about you guys ask for what the person might need? And so emotional availability, people aren't just gonna do the bare minimum when they're emotionally available for you. They're gonna go above and beyond to show up for you and to see, how can I listen to, understand, process, assess, and be there for this person emotionally and show up above and beyond to really care for them, really consider how they feel, really act on their best interests, and make sure that they feel emotionally congruent with me, with themselves, and we're able to share that intimacy with each other. If you're not willing to do that, they're not willing to do that for you, then you're just gonna hit a plateau. Our relationship's only gonna meet a certain amount of emotional intimacy and closeness and needs. It's only ever gonna go so deep. So it's kind of like a rut or a dead end. It's kind of just like you're stuck in the gutter with them. If you wanna level up and ascend, you need to actually become emotionally available for yourself and for those who you can be emotionally available for, and then go above and beyond for the people you actually want to, who are willing to do the same for you. If they're not willing to do the same for you, you're pretty much signing up for somebody who's gonna stay where they're at. If that's all they can do, that's fine. If you really love someone, you can decide to show up for them in that way. But don't start expecting them to show up for you or to be as emotionally available as you are, especially if they're not emotionally available. That's a recipe for disaster. If they're very logical, they're not very emotional, they analyze everything, they make everything into data, they make everything into facts, they're very unemotional, very logistical. I get wanting to encourage them to be more emotional, but the trick and the trap in that is that you could end up kind of being like their process that helps them become emotionally available, and then they could turn around and start being emotionally available for other people while using you to become emotionally available. And then they can just leave you and then become emotionally available for everybody else or another partner. But you were the one who helped them do that. Doesn't matter if it's not compatible or they're not interested in you. They don't owe you that emotional availability technically or at all. So be very careful who you invest your time and energy into, because not everybody's going to return it to you. And sadly, people can be emotionally available and become emotionally unavailable. People can be emotionally available and inconsistent. People can be almost emotionally available, but not fully or not really. And then people can be emotionally unavailable and try to convince you that they're available, or show up intermittently and get you addicted to that uncertainty and that inconsistency. There's so many different ways that people do that, and you might be the one doing that. But the first thing you can start is by loving yourself. When you love yourself, you're not going to sign up for emotionally unavailable people. If you get help and therapy, and you kind of find that you had some mommy or daddy issues or trust issues from exes or whatever, you're trying to replay in a new relationship to try to get them to love you in the ways other people didn't, so you can finally feel enough, then you realize, wait, I just can love myself in those ways, and I can only sign up for emotionally available and compatible relationships, so I'm not continuing to regurgitate the same issue or cause the same conflicts or go through the same karmic cycles with the same archetype in a different person. Now, once you become emotionally available, a lot of people might want that energy. And once you find people who are emotionally available, you might want their energy. but you have to have verbal consent. You have to be willing to like have those tough conversations. Like, are you interested in me? Do you want the same things I do? Can we show up in these ways? And yeah, it's kind of boring. It's more fun and sexy and, you know, interesting when you just kiss someone. But obviously asking to kiss them is the right thing to do, not like in the movies where they just kiss people. Similarly, if you go further with someone, you need to ask for every piece, and if they don't require it, you can make agreements beforehand. But until you do, you can't just assume that like somebody's going to be emotionally available for me, or let me trauma dump my whole life story onto them. And so it's important to ask about time boundaries. It's important to ask about emotional boundaries. Like, are you in the space to have this conversation, or do you feel comfortable with me telling you how I really feel about you, or can I tell you how I really feel? And if you can't even ask that with somebody, like you don't feel safe enough to ask them if they can listen to how you really feel, they're probably emotionally unavailable or unsafe for you to express your feelings with them. So why would you try to invest in them in the first place? Now, if you're emotionally unavailable and you want to start being available for others, you have to ask yourself why. Like, what's in it for you? Why are you doing this? What changes do you have to make? And how are you going to show up for other people by actually wanting to? Because a part of you wants to be emotionally available for them. You want them. You want their emotional availability for you. You want that intimacy and depth. You want that closeness and love. You want that care. You want that understanding. You want that cohesiveness where you feel like, wow, I'm actually showing up for myself. Like, I'm actually showing up for them. We actually have something solid. Like, I'm able to just get the sleep I need, work, and still be there for the person I love or for the people I love. That matters. And like having your partner be happy, your friends and family be happy, people be satisfied with you, people feel like they can rely on you and count on you. That's great, and that's great to feel with others too. Like, they're emotionally available when you need to call them. They're there.